Do you know what it takes to make your house smart? On today's podcast, my guest is Justin Worley, who is the founder of Oasis Smart Homes. And Justin is a great resource to share with us all the different things that you can implement within your home to make your lighting super easy to use or to automate your whole entire house. So I sure hope that you enjoy hearing from Justin Worley right here. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Well, today I've got Justin Worley, who's the owner of Oasis Smart Homes. And I know that's not the name you started out with, but that's what we're going to talk about today. So thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. This is I don't do these podcasts very often, so I'm kind of excited to try it and see how it goes.
Yay. Well, we are excited. So this is literally year 4 of Iconic Hour with RENEE. So we've been really excited about the whole video thing that we've been doing, which has been fun. So how did you get into the audiovisual smart home business?
Oh, sure. I started doing installations when I was 19 years old, actually for a guy named Buzz Jensen, who had one of the largest audio video stores. And I worked for him for years, kind of learned how to do the install and then learned how to do the system design and then eventually the sales part of it. Actually, he now has joined our team at Oasis, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, it's fun to see him.
Yeah, so just kind of worked my way through the different roles and just kind of learned the industry inside and out over the last 23 years or so.
So you officially started your business in 2011.
Yes. Yeah. April of 2011. I started the business out here in Arizona.
So when did you know it was time to go out on your own?
At that time, it was actually just kind of like a perfect storm. Everything aligned for me. I was still working at Buzz Jensen's, and he was actually located inside of the Robin Stuckey stores.
Yep.
Which was great. We did, a lot of really fun projects out of that place and got to know a lot of really good people. And then the Robin Stuckey store kind of went out of business around that time and kind of left Buzz downsized, moved into his house and became one of the AV guys that works out of his house. And it just left me deciding if I wanted to go work somewhere else or start my own business, and had an opportunity to rent a really nice place over on North Scottsdale and just kind of went for it and crossed my fingers it would work out, and it did.
Well, you've had a great run because you've got a lot of great clients. So you're here in Scottsdale and you're in Orange County as well, also doing work in Palm Desert, which those are our 3 markets also. And one of the things that I think is so interesting about your business is that it's constantly changing. So if it has to do with audio or video or smart home technology, these are all platforms that are changing constantly. So how do you guys keep up?
There's a lot of training. There's a lot of trying and testing and bench testing in our own homes. But you're right. Every 6 months, there's some new technology that can really dramatically change what we represent, what we would recommend to a client, or just how things operate in a home. So we're constantly ordering the latest and greatest, bringing it home, putting it in our houses, trying it out, deciding if it's something that we feel comfortable with, if it, actually enriches the client's lives, or if it's just, like some gimmick or phase that things are, going through here and there, and just kind of making sure that whatever we recommend and we install and we represent, we've tried, we've tested, and we enjoy using it.
So you said the key word, that you enjoy using it. So one of the things with technology, which I already know you guys have kind of conquered this area, but in having built a couple homes myself, and one of them actually, interestingly enough, with Buzz Jensen, what's interesting about it is in the early days of smart home technology, it was not enjoyable to use. In fact, I remember many times not understanding actually how to use it. And if you push the wrong button, then it seemed like all of a sudden you couldn't get back to where you are. I know a lot of these systems have improved over time, but I know that you're really proud of installing systems that people truly can use and understand. So how did that come about, and what kinds of systems do you most install for your clients?
Absolutely. And that's a really good point to make. Reliability is number one. That's the first thing we think about whenever we design a system, over and beyond everything. Some of the most cutting edge, latest technologies they're for certain people, but they also come with like a learning curve or working out bugs or stuff like that for the manufacturer. So we try to avoid that unless a client really is asking for that. It is home automation. It is technology. So there's always going to be glitches in technology. It's just like if you buy a new computer or your iPhone, when it doesn't update, one of your apps all of a sudden doesn't work, stuff like that. So there's an element of balancing, managing the things that we know might kind of go bump in the night, and then also designing in a way that, okay, we know this is a reliable system. Some of the more mainstream automation systems out there like Crestron, Control4, those systems have been around. I mean, Control4, I've been installing and programming for 22 years. Crestron's been around even a lot longer than that. So while there was definitely a period where these systems were new and clients would have bad experiences, I feel like if it's designed right and you have a good service team, then the experience is going to be overall really positive for a client.
Yeah. And then probably also needing some regular maintenance too, right? Just like you said, some things need to be updated, or over time, something's going to cause an issue. So you need to kind of be on it regularly. I'm really interested in Crestron Home. So they launched that during one of our show houses. Okay. That was back in 2020, I think it was. And that was really supposed to be one of their very simple solutions. How has that been working for you and for your clients?
We've actually had a lot of luck with Crestron Home. They kind of bridge the gap where in the past, Crestron has been a system that's always a great system and a reliable system. But when it got to the programming and implementation, you had a big amount of programming involved in it, a lot of setup. There's actually guys out there that their entire business plan is just programming Crestron, and they make a great living doing that. And so if you're just doing a nice home and you don't want to reinvent the wheel every time you move into a home and all of that, Crestron became a little too much for certain projects. So Crestron Homes really bridged that gap. Most of the programs you can do the setup with an iPad now, which in a lot of the days with programming, it's you open a laptop and you kind of just sit there on on a bucket for the next 12 hours programming a Crestron system. Now we just open an iPad, walk around the room, commission devices, set it, test it, and it's working really well. So they've really came a long ways in how fast we can get a system up and working and reliable.
So nice. Well, and then easier for the homeowners too. So when you started your business in 2011, there were a lot of things that you probably wanted to be able to do in a house, but you didn't have the technology to do it. What were some of the things that you couldn't do back then that you can do today?
The first one that just popped in my mind is voice control. That's been huge. All of the manufacturers, obviously, everybody's heard of Alexa, and a lot of people have Alexa in their home. That's you would think that that's really started the trend for voice control, but we were actually doing that for a few years before Alexa became big. But between Crestron, Control4, who has a new OS coming out in the next couple of months that's very Siri based, and there's a company called Josh AI, which we're a big fan of, and we do a lot of systems. And between those three, you can really just kind of walk around your home now and just blurt out whatever commands you want, and things just happen. It's very intuitive. It's very easy to operate. And it really takes a lot of the open my phone, unlock my phone, open an app, wait for the app to load, then turn a light on, which isn't really all that convenient at this point. So that's been a really big one.
So it makes me think about a movie that is really super inappropriate, also very funny, called Why Him? Have you seen that movie where Kaylee Kukos from The Big Bang is the voice of the house, and it's this house that's super automated, and everybody's walking through the house just constantly talking to the voice up in the sky?
I have not seen that one, but it's going on my list now. There's so many now. I have to remember the name. It'll come to me in a minute, but I just watched a movie that was like out of the UK on a smart home gone bad. It was like a horror flick.
Oh, geez.
So it just seems like one after another coming out right now because it's really popular right now. So.
Well, and it seems like, just like you said, if you don't have to open up an app, to be able to just kind of have that voice in the sky where you can actually have a conversation, you turn on the light, turn off the light, and everything makes it much easier, for people to be able to manage that house. So I know we just started looking into Josh AI, but AI has been a big buzzword for the last couple of years, but Josh AI has been around for almost 10 years, I think. So obviously people weren't really talking that much about AI back then. What has Josh AI enabled you to provide for your clients?
So Josh AI really started as just a voice overlay on like a Control4 or Crestron or Sonos or Lutron system. And they've evolved into a full actual backbone of your system. So that's been kind of nice to have the voice control be your actual main operating system too. Yeah. Because it eliminates some handshakes between systems, creates more reliability, which is really important. But the biggest thing is it's really just simple ease of use. It is an AI learning platform. So, for instance, today I noticed I asked it to turn on some music, and it just kind of had looked at the time of day, and what music I'd played around that time of day and, you know, that environment, and picked for me. And, you know, it was great. This is exactly what I'm looking for. And just certain things like that, turning on the lights and it going to your preset levels automatically, and just kind of things being more natural instead of having to, like with Alexa, you have to very specifically tell it what you'd like it to do. So some of those things where the AI really is working for you in a luxury type environment.
So this is where it all can go bad.
It can also,
because it knows you so well. But really what you're talking about is convenience. So let's go back to the very beginning. So there's so many things that are available for us when we're building a custom home. And what's interesting is everything's taking a budget too when you're building a custom home. So everything, if you want the best of everything, you're just going to, you know, that's going to start to add up. And AV sometimes comes a little bit, you know, more at the end of the road. You know, it's at the very beginning because you're pre-wiring, but it could be at the end when you're selecting your items. So if somebody's starting from scratch and they want a house that is a smart house and they want something that's going to be a little bit more future proofed, what kind of recommendations are you making, and how do they get started?
Well, the first recommendation that we tend, when asked that question, to go to is the network is really the backbone of your home. The Wi-Fi network, the security, everything that goes along with that. So the first thing we kind of design off of is making sure the home's covered with good quality Wi-Fi, good quality network. Sometimes,
really good point.
whether that be fiber, Cat 6A, just the quality of the wire and all of that when you're starting to build a home really matters. Because once you have that in, then the rest can be put together pretty easily, and sometimes can be added after you've moved in, as you start to realize, oh, you know, I wish I would have done this in this certain room, didn't wire for it. We still have the ability. We always recommend hardwiring everything because it truly, even though Wi-Fi is such a common thing right now, hardwire just will always give you the ultimate reliability. But as long as your network is done well, then the rest follows.
So it's interesting that you're starting with the network. I wouldn't have thought about that, but now that you say that, I don't get very good Wi-Fi back in my room. So you would first take a look and make sure that the whole house, because houses are getting bigger and bigger. So you want to make sure the entire house is just getting a good signal, because that's going to be a good foundation. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. That's important to think about. So once you've figured that piece out, what happens next?
After we do that, then we always have the talk about the hardwiring. And if it is a new home and a new build or even a retro where you have the ability, we're always going to recommend things like shades, lighting control. All of these things have hardwires ran to them, just because it does create reliability. And it creates a system that is really foolproof in that situation. Cameras, you know, a lot of people, there's a lot of buzz on like Ring cameras and Nest cameras, and those are great. They're good DIY products, and they fit a certain need, and their interfaces are nice. But if you start getting those, and then your TVs are on Wi-Fi, and you just go across the board and you have too much Wi-Fi, you're going to have things that need to be rebooted. You have to get to them. You have to power them off. You have to unplug them. And so we just, you know, as a professional, we want to eliminate all of that for a client.
Right.
So the next thing we do go to is going to be recommending quality wiring to go in place in the home. Once that's done, then your drywall goes up and your paint goes up, and you don't have to necessarily put all of the gear in on day one if it isn't something you're not sure you're going to have speakers in this room or speakers in that room.
Right.
So that's kind of the first step, is let's make sure our foundation is solid. Then we can move on to the next parts of the house.
Well, and so when you do all the proper pre-wiring, and if you even pre-wire for things that you're not even sure you want, you've just saved yourself a lot of hassle, because when you decide you want that thing later, you have to cut into drywall, you have to repaint, all that stuff. So if it's pre-wired, it makes it very easy to add these other things as time goes on.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's something we've been preaching for, the last 20 years. And it's more important now than it ever has been, because there's so many more connected devices in the home. So now there's even more things bouncing around on Wi-Fi and that kind of thing throughout the house.
So while we're talking about wiring, so in a lot of companies, there's the pre-wiring for the AV, and then there's the wiring of the electrical. You also have an electrical company. So how has that really improved things for your clients?
That's the best thing we've done. By far, if you had to pick one thing we've done that was a win for us over the last, since we've been in existence, it was adding an electrical company to what we do. We did it at just the right time. I kind of saw that the electrical industry was changing a lot for the residential market. Between lighting control, there's a lot of tape and linear lighting that's now being implemented. A lot of the fixtures that are in the ceiling are low voltage fixtures, and if they're not low voltage fixtures, there's a lot of high voltage fixtures that the control for them is either low volt or needs to be programmed. So you've got a lot of electricians out there that, you know, maybe aren't necessarily with the mindset to implement some of the technologies that custom homes need.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got low volt guys that do know how to design it and maybe have put the time in to learn it. And then you've got to get the two to talk and
Right.
communicate. And so there's not been a single builder that we work with right now that has used us as an electrical and a low volt contractor on the same job that just hasn't came back with feedback that it's a big win for them. It takes
That's
out
great.
all the handshakes. And so that's probably my favorite thing about our company is I have an electrical manager. I have system designers in the AV. They sit right next to each other. Every single project we've got right in front of us, we're planning together. Hey, so electrical is going to get the power to the area right here, and then the low volt transformer is going to come out with a control wire here. There's like 3 different handshakes in just one fixture sometimes.
Right.
And they sit there and they figure it out and they mark where they want it on the plans, and it just happens. And there's not 17
Wow.
meetings on a job site to make it work.
Yeah.
So,
Or again, figuring out once the homeowner moves into the house that certain things don't work the way they were really hoping for them to work.
yeah. And then they're
Yeah.
pointing fingers, oh, the electrician should have done this or what. That doesn't happen on our projects, which,
Right.
I mean, that's great. It's
Yeah.
a big headache out of everybody that nobody has to deal with.
Yeah. And again, the more reliable all of these systems can be, all the better, because
Yep.
you want to just keep it as simple as possible. So now you've got the house pre-wired for what all the options are, and you've got the electrical figured out, and that's all coordinated together. How are people making decisions about what level of smartness they want in their house?
The best thing for us is to have a client come into our showroom. We have all the options, and we really don't have. I mean, we obviously have our personal favorites, but we typically like to educate and help a client understand what's out there, and do our best to help them picture the use in their own home, in their own environment, and then maybe kind of do a demo based off, like, you know, some clients are like, I'm a music lover. I've got to have music the very second I wake up, a lot of times before I'm even out of bed. So the fact that I have voice and control with speakers in my bedroom and can just basically roll out of bed and say, hey, turn on some music, and it's on right then, that's important to me. But some clients could care less about that. So just trying to educate them and let them see all of the different options, the different layers that you can overlay of home automation needs.
Right.
Some people think of home automation as just security and maybe door locks and you know, shades and stuff like that. So if that's all that matters is that part of it,
Right.
you know, okay, let's do a simple Lutron and maybe a smart door lock and call it a day kind of thing.
Yeah, you have to kind of know what it is that you want to be able to do. And then you also have to be able to listen to clients and understand what it is that they think they want to do, and then tell them maybe how they should do it.
Yeah,
'Cause-
sometimes trying to anticipate a little bit of, because we have done a lot of projects, and you know, we've had plenty of times where clients say, "Nah, I don't think I'd ever use that," and then we know right away that they maybe as soon as they get into the home, they're going to wish they had that. So we try to maybe word it a different way, or, you know, just show them the situation in their home where they would run into that and
Yeah.
want it. So that kind of thing. And that always, anytime we can save a little bit of a nuisance of them having to come back and add it after the fact, once they realize they wish they had it, we want to try to do that for a client.
Yeah, for sure. How long does it take? So I remember, and this is back in the days when I think the system didn't work so well, but I remember moving into my custom home, and at the time, I feel like the AV guys were at my house for the first 6 weeks that I lived there. Like we all kind of moved in together, and they were there for quite a long time. I know that's not how you do it, but how should the program work?
Well, it all depends. You know, the ideal situation is, I will say there are times where on the AV, the home technology, the end part of a home being finalized is always under the gun anyways. So
Right.
you've got builders, designers trying to get a project done, and a client thinking that they should have moved in a week ago. And that happens. It's construction. It's pretty normal.
Right, yeah.
So you do have a lot of situations where we would love to be able to come in, fully install TVs, fully install everything, turnkey ready before the clients, you know, delivered their beds and start staying there. But sometimes the window between them finishing up the tile grout and the client moving in is a day. And so sometimes we find ourselves installing the TVs and all of the product after a client's moved in.
Yeah.
that's okay. It gives us a chance to understand how the client's going to use the product, and sometimes it helps us program different scenarios a little bit better for the client. But in typical on a large project, just like any other trade, when you're getting to the final, we typically need a week, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more, to get TVs and speakers and everything all fully functional, programmed, and set up. And if we have that, it works really well. But we always try to plan ahead of time, maybe a couple go backs to the client's house for further education.
Right.
Because if we show you how your remote or how your app or how your smart home works, and we don't get a chance to customize because you haven't lived in the home yet, so we don't really know what to customize yet, we need to let you live in the home for a week or two, come back, refresh your memory on how everything works.
Right. Yeah.
Make a few adjustments. Maybe there's a bug here and there that we want to work out. It's technology, but we plan for that ahead of time. So a client will know, hey, in 2 weeks, we're going to come back out and spend a half day with you, just re-educating, running through anything that maybe hasn't worked perfectly, and setting up some more personalization to the home.
So nice. Well, and the other thing too is you guys have to kind of be the last team in there, because dust and electronics really don't work very well together. So you got to wait till the house is at least cleaned up. And just like you said, sometimes that is they're brooming the front walkway as people are literally moving
movers
in.
are moving in.
So what about the other thing that I know you've really been into lately, in addition to smart technology, is also taking a look at linear lighting. And I think it is so pretty and so very high design. So how did you get into that, and where are you using this?
Well, we got into it because with being electrical and low volt, it's another one of those areas where that gap gets bridged, because you've got to have electrical for the lighting. Depending on the level of linear lighting you're doing, a lot of what I like personally, I like the ability to make linear lighting tunable, which is color temperature changes, can change throughout the day. There's a lot of light fixtures and stuff you can do that with. But with linear, it's pretty common for a tape light to have the ability to change the color temperature and to be able to do that pretty easily. So that is one of the reasons that drove me towards it. But it's a need. It's a want and a need that clients have. I'm looking at the wall behind us right now. This is a nice looking slat wall.
Yep.
This is extremely common, and it's very seldom that you see a wall like this installed in a home where you don't have some kind of linear lighting highlighting it and just making it pop out a little bit.
I might need linear lighting in here.
Need to do that. But it's fun. It's a fun thing. Traditionally you have a lot of can lights in the ceiling. They can do a good job lighting your general area. They become a little spotty, a little glare. And if you can do something that's a little more unique, maybe adds to the design versus just a spotlight pointing down, I think pretty much everybody would prefer that in their home.
So I've seen you do some very cool designs. Just like you said, you're putting it in the slats, but also in the ceiling, you're doing designs where the lighting is, the ceiling, and it's coming down the wall, which is, gosh, that's 100 times more interesting than the cans in the ceiling. It's really cool looking. Yeah,
it becomes part of the decor of the home versus just a functional light. And that's what's cool about it.
Yeah, I mean, and if you get the person who knows how to design around that, that's actually really cool. So speaking of lighting, that makes me want to think about circadian rhythms and how people like to wake up to a certain kind of light and then a certain light throughout the day, and then you want to wind down your evening. And I think, have you done this in your home?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So so how did you
I would
set
not
up
be able to live without this in my home at this
Okay.
point.
So I think I remember you saying something about that you couldn't live without it. So now how does your lighting work in your house to benefit your own personal circadian rhythms?
So my hours that I'm awake and working and all that, they're not the most traditional hours. I have a 2-year-old son, and so I'm often working around his schedule and the time that we're doing that. So it's one of the reasons I really like the ability. So I have mine set up a little different than you might recommend to a client. First off, the most traditional way to do circadian lighting is to have it basically mimic the sun.
Right.
So early morning, you're going to have a really nice warm color temperature. As you get a little bit closer to 10 a.m. or whatever time compared to the sunrise, you're going to get a little bit cooler. Midday, it's going to be a really nice bright blue like the sky. And then as you get to the evening, it's going to go back to a warm that helps you get ready for bed. So that's a pretty easy setting, and all the systems that we implement have that as a default. You can just turn that on, really easy. My house, I went a little further, and I have in each room, I have buttons that basically say motivate and relax, and it will override those settings. So if it's 7:30 at night and I'm going to sit at my island and try to work through different system designs and stuff like that, I need to stay awake, stay a little more alert.
Motivate
Button. My lights look like the middle of the day. My brain doesn't start getting ready for relaxing, and I'm pretty much can, put a couple hours in and not really feel like I work till 10 o'clock at night or something like that.
So cool. Didn't you tell me at one point that you thought that your circadian lighting was replacing coffee for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing.
The last week it hasn't been, but
yeah.
I have a 2-year-old, so coffee's pretty important a lot of times.
So
but it's definitely can get you up and going without the need to have caffeine.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, I think a lot of us are all thinking about how to live in a house that promotes wellness and longevity and well-being. You want to have a house that helps you have a positive mood and things like that too. And so I think we underestimate the power of lighting. Like, what do you think is possible with lighting?
I absolutely think that if a home's designed properly for circadian rhythm with lighting, it can absolutely, improve your mood. And improve your overall well-being, your overall just your overall feel good. Actually there's times I feel like I'm not the most. There's definitely times that I cheat and don't hit the gym, and there's times when I get up in the morning, hit that motivate button, the nice bright light, got some music going, sitting there, and it changes my intention for the day. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so with all these great things we can do in our houses, what is coming next? Like, what are the cool things that are on the horizon? Because I know you're paying attention to what's next.
Okay, a few things. I mean, obviously AI and voice, I feel like that's going to be continued to grow and develop. Couple of fairly specific things. Control 4 has a new update coming out that's going to be huge. They really haven't updated their operating system for years. It's a nice solid operating system, but one of the things, like we do Savant, we do other systems, a lot of people will lean like Savant because it's the Apple friendly system. Right. Control 4 has a system that's going to be coming out in the next quarter that's very iOS based. So the app is very tightly integrated to iPhone, to the way it operates. When you open the app, you kind of feel like you're controlling the home from your iPhone directly.
Yeah, that's nice.
And people are just so used to the iPhone interface, and when you slide down and have all the toolbars and stuff like that, it's very similar to that. And so playing with it myself, I really feel like it's going to be the next step of just kind of a natural used to using this already. And then it's going to integrate Siri directly to a lot of the devices. Yeah. So that's going to be really nice. I think there's a lot of people will start to embrace the voice whenever it's just a matter of talking to your phone.
Yeah.
Josh AI, I don't want to take anything away from what they're doing with voice, because they're definitely steps ahead when it comes to voice control and having the AI part of it take over for you. So seeing what they're going to do with that's going to be pretty exciting. We're seeing a lot of cool things in speaker. I mean, speakers have been around for like house audio speakers. Some people have kind of gotten away from doing built-ins and gone to Sonos and some of these more wireless box speakers. And I think a lot of that has been for ease of use. So with some of the new apps and the new interfaces that are so easy voice controlled, I think you'll see people go back to built-in custom speakers. And the neat thing with that is we're getting to where, like the speakers I just put in my kitchen, they're a 2-inch by 2-inch grill.
Oh, wow.
That's flush with the drywall. So no more are we having to do these big 8-10-inch round speakers that are like eyesores in the ceiling.
Yeah.
We can put these speakers in and they sound phenomenal. It's like there is a subwoofer built into them. And so when you turn them on, you have really, really, really good quality sound.
So cool.
Yeah.
My gosh, such fun stuff we can do. Well, it's really cool. So I guess based on everything that you know and talking about that movie that you just said, we're not going to really worry about our houses taking over for us. We're still going to be able to stay in control, right?
Yeah. I mean, the movie I just watched had the voice control was actually a robot. And I think if we start going down the road of having like a robot as part of our automation, then we should probably watch out.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're not to that yet. No. Awesome. Well, Justin, thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Super interesting stuff, and continued great luck to you.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome.
Well, that's the pod. Thanks for joining me this week. Please make sure to subscribe to the podcast and hit the bell so that you never miss an episode. And for more about Iconic Life, please go to iconiclife.com. Until next time, I'm RENEE D. We'll see you soon.